What you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange on the Mesh Podcast Network, a monthly conversation about startups and small business with ideas, tools, and advice to operate your business more effectively. On today's show, it's hot outside. You're sweaty. You could sure use a cold beer. But it's lunchtime, and you have 5 more hours of work. What should you do? Today we have 2 guests, Caleb Brown and Brian Garrison, who have created a non-alcoholic beer brand, and we'll be sharing their entrepreneurial story. Plus, on today's show, the always exciting lightning round, and we'll share some interesting small businesses that you should be checking out. Hello, my name is Jeff Newville. I'm your co-host. I'm director of the Manufacturing Solutions Center in Conover, North Carolina. I'm joined by my co-host, Gary Muller, who is Executive Dean of Economic Development and Corporate Education at Catawba Valley Community College in Hickory. That is a mouthful. Gary, how you doing?
Jeff, I'm doing great, although it's hot as blazes. But I do like hot weather better than cool weather.
You like hot weather? You say you're here in a long sleeve shirt. You you could use a cold beer.
That's a good idea.
Okay, we actually have samples.
I'm excited
from our guest today. So we're
really excited about these samples because I'm allergic to alcohol. That's my story.
You've told me this before. I mean, is this just someone that doesn't like to drink beer and goes around saying, I'm allergic to alcohol?
That's a good way to get around.
So I question your allergies, but...
Can I take one of these to Atlanta to celebrate our Skills USA team's success?
I think you should hand them out to all the high school kids and
That'll
say,
be really
congratulations,
good.
we have
That'll
non-alcoholic
probably be the last
beer.
time they go to the Skills USA conference.
I think you would be
with
like
us anyway.
You would be the belle of the ball, Gary. So anyway, we have our guest with us. We have Caleb Brown, who is a Marine. Thank you for your service.
Yes.
Turned humanitarian and entrepreneur who has been shaped by his journeys and interested in innovation. He grew up in the Chicago area, but he's made his home here in Wilkesboro in the Appalachian area of North Carolina. And we're also joined by Brian Garrison, who joined the name of the company, Bright Barrel, as a co-founder in 2024. And he sort of got an entrepreneurial background himself. He put in a lot of sweat equity when he was a young man doing lawn work and whatnot. And he actually started his own insurance business, which you might remember, Brian, from previous Entrepreneur Exchange podcasts. Exactly. Caleb, Brian, welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange. Welcome back to the Entrepreneur Exchange.
Thank you guys so much. Good to be here with you.
Also say, my son was a Marine. Is a Marine.
Okay.
Always a Marine, right?
All right. Wow. Yeah. Once a Marine, always a Marine. That's right.
Great.
And how are you doing, Brian?
Doing great. Doing great.
It's always good to see you.
Yep.
Same here.
So, Brian, Caleb, you guys are starting a non-alcoholic beer brand called Bright Barrel. Why non-alcoholic beer? Who do you plan to market it to? How big is the audience out there for non-alcoholic beer, other than my friend Gary?
Yeah, that's right. Perfect guest for me.
Hopefully we have 2 fans now, but yeah. So just to give you a little bit of a backstory with this, I have had a storied journey with alcohol just throughout my life. Really, I would say in the Marine Corps. And for much of my adult life, I drank pretty heavy, and I love beer. I love a good gin and tonic, but I've needed to really dial it back. And one of the things that became pretty clear to me was I was training for a triathlon, and I had to cut alcohol out during the time I was training. Pretty intense training, and my little sister, who'd gone through AA. Introduced me to some non-alcoholic beer. Now, the last time I had drank non-alcoholic beer, I was in the Marine Corps. I was in Iraq, and under General Order Number 1, you can't have beer. But they do have O'Doul's out there, and I remember trying it and just being incredibly disappointed with the experience. And so when my little sister offered me her non-alcoholic beer, I was definitely skeptical, but I drank it, and I was surprised how good it actually tasted. It was a craft quality, and so I started looking around for more non-alcoholic beer options, and especially down here in Western North Carolina, it was hard to find on the shelves. You could get a couple big brand options, but really very little craft non-alcoholic beer. And even when I started looking, I bought some online, because one of the nice things about non-alcoholic beers, you can ship across the U.S. There's no limitations because it's non-alcoholic. And so when I ordered product, I would get it. And even then, the branding on it was just really lacked any creativity. You know, good craft beer often has great creative vibes in their branding, and so that was really a part of the launch of this, was recognizing putting good craft non-alcoholic beer in cans and products that really reflect the Appalachian region is something that I really wanted to do. I've lived now in the Western North Carolina area since end of 2017, and have fallen in love with it. And so that was really the genesis. In terms of types of people or why drink non-alcoholic beer, one of the biggest reasons is for health reasons. Mm-hmm. So a non-alcoholic beer has about half of the calories that a traditional beer has, sometimes even significantly less than that, depending on how you brew the product. But it's high in polyphenols. So actually, if you took alcohol out of beer, fermented products are good for you. And so a non-alcoholic beer has high levels of polyphenols, which are very good for cardiovascular health. It's high in electrolytes, so it becomes a really good recovery drink. So other brands have started to really market into like that marathon and triathlete crowd, and you're starting to see more and more non-alcoholic beers pop up in the world of athletics as well, just because of that aspect that it really is a good recovery drink post-workout. So the other aspect for me, when I was training in my triathlon and drinking non-alcoholic beer, it was kind of a weird experience to actually be able to sit down and drink a beer and then go for a 30-mile bike ride. But you could, and it was like you had been hydrated before you started going. Now, I don't know if I'd recommend the carbonated forms of anything while you're out on the road. You probably want something that's a little less carbonated, but before or after, it's an excellent product for that. So those are some of the big reasons.
Okay,
very cool.
Well, and I'm sipping on it and I'm enjoying it. It's pretty refreshing, actually. So. Choosing business partners can be a dangerous game. They sometimes.
That's why he, is looking at me when he says it.
They can end in divorce. You and I have been together for a long time, though, Gary.
That's true.
Tell us a little bit about how you two met and partnered up, and how's it going?
Well, Caleb sought me out for some insurance consultation. So that's how we initially met. Was a small business center director referred Caleb to me for some insurance consultation as to what kind of insurance coverages his business was going to need. So we met. What month was it, Caleb?
In January.
Toward the end of January, and started that whole process, and then I was just really intrigued with his story, with what he was creating, and more importantly, the type of person he is, high integrity. So over the next few months, we really began to develop a relationship, and I couldn't be more impressed with him. So what he has formed with his brand and the labeling, our artwork, just really impressed me. So I was ready to come on board.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I've always, so from my time in the Marine Corps, working as a humanitarian worker internationally, I lived overseas in a number of different countries, worked in different contexts. I think all of that prepared me well for starting off in entrepreneurship. And I'm happy to talk about some of those reasons if you guys want. But one of the things I've never been good at is going it on my own and being a solopreneur. And so I think when I started with this, it quickly emerged. I've got limited capacities, and I need someone who can complement my weaknesses. But also, I just, having a business partner for someone who externally processes and wants to have either affirmation or someone kind of challenge them is something that I found. September was when we started this business. September through December, I was mostly running it. There were other people that were part of the journey. There's some artists out in Tennessee that do a phenomenal job with our artwork, and App State University, we're working with them at their Lab of Fermentation Sciences. They're the ones that have really helped us dial in a really good line of products. What you guys are trying is just our first version of what we're going to continue to develop, multiple different types of non-alcoholic beer. So for me, I did have other people that were feeding into it, but I think I went into entrepreneurship thinking, oh, I'll love the feeling of ownership and the buck stopping with me. And then I got into it and I was like, oh my goodness, I need someone to share this buck stopping with. Like I do not want it to end here. So when Brian and I started talking and he expressed interest, I just felt like it was a real neat opportunity. Our value systems align really well. He's got a good network in this area, but more importantly, we just formed a pretty quick friendship as we started talking, and yeah, it was that combination of factors that I think for me made it a very easy decision to go into the partnership. So,
well, it's great that you guys get along and hit it off so quickly, because you do need. Even if you're out there by yourself, you got to have people around you that are going to support you. And of course, if you're going to be in a partnership, it's even better. Just like Jeff and me.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, have you guys figured out ways? Do you structure your work in a certain way where Caleb, you're responsible for certain things and Brian's responsible for certain things? I mean, how do you guys figure that part of it out?
Yeah. So where I'm most skilled is on the operational, logistical side of things, and so that's been a little bit more my focus on the product development as well, and figuring out what types of beers we're going to make, and then working with the university team. It's all a pretty complicated process to create a good non-alcoholic beer. There are elements to it that require real precision, and so those are things that I enjoy doing, working in the lab, working on these kinds of things, and then trying to figure out supply chain and that sort of thing. But that's kind of where I think I stop. I'll let you go, Brian, in terms of where your strengths are.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much the sales and marketing guy, sales and marketing oriented, and I take it and run with it.
Okay.
Good combination.
Yeah.
And I heard the word supply chain, or the term supply chain. We never heard about that before COVID and all these things. Now everybody's talking about it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Which is good, because every business is working and needs to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Big or small.
Well. Speaking of supply chains, speaking of sales, I mean, tell us a little bit about how you're distributing, or how you plan to be distributing things. So, what sort of sales channels are you guys selling to, or trying to sell to at this point in time?
So, it's important to note where we're at this time when we're doing this podcast. We have our first fully commercial product in fermentation tanks right now, getting ready to can next week. What you guys are trying is still our very small scale. We brewed it in what's the equivalent of a half barrel system, and now we've got it run through 30 barrel system. So our first commercially available product will be available by the end of next week, and we'll be hitting shelves. And I'll talk about some of those shelves and channels here in a second. But
like your shelves, or like other shelves?
hopefully not just my shelves. I will have a few cases on my shelves. So we're really looking at 4 different channels. The first channel is selling direct to consumer, and that's through our online marketplace. We expect by July 10th we'll have the whole system set up so people can place orders, and we'll be shipping our non-alcoholic beer to people anywhere in the U.S. We'll be able to do that. Then our next channel is breweries, bars, restaurants, sort of on-premise drinking facilities. So that really was one of the first areas we identified as a gap. We went to several breweries, went in and asked for non-alcoholic beer. If they had non-alcoholic beer, it was never on their menu. It was just something they just happened to have a case in the back of their fridge for people that might ask. And so that's an area we really see as an opportunity, because if we can put it on our website that you can go to a local restaurant that's carrying non-alcoholic beer, we can help them market that product. But then they also are carrying it and hopefully selling that product. And one thing that we haven't spoken about is just the remarkable growth in the non-alcoholic beer segment. So 4 years ago, it was about 0.8% of the total beer market in the U.S. that was non-alcoholic beer. Now it's over 5% just in the last 4 years. And if you look at a place like Spain or Germany, their non-alcoholic beer market, which is much more mature than ours, sits around 13%. So of the total beer market. So even as people are drinking less alcohol, generally, that's a trend in the U.S., a lot of people are starting to replace that with non-alcoholic beer. So it's something that we're going to breweries, restaurants, and bars, and we're telling people, you have an opportunity to really add a revenue stream to your business by carrying a non-alcoholic beer. And so that's our compelling case when we meet with individuals in that space. So that's our B2B side. One other channel that's probably more next year for us is getting it onto the shelves of grocery stores. And so that's something we're working. We're starting to have conversations with pricing departments and distributors and that kind of thing. But that is just a little bit down the road. And then our fourth channel is selling it ourselves at pop-ups. That's where Brian and I go in, maybe a local Hickory festival, that kind of thing, where we can go in and we can just set up and offer our samples to people. People can buy our product. The margins on that are much greater. Of course, the time investment also is much greater. But that also gives us that face-to-face interaction where we can get people giving us quick feedback on our product, because we really see this as a iterative process. We've just launched with this. Mm-hmm. This is like version, I don't know, this is probably version 12 you guys are trying of a line.
It is safe to drink, though, right?
It's safe to drink. And it's pasteurized as well. Okay. So it's
actually tasty. I mean, I did not know what to expect with a non-alcoholic beer. I suspect I've had one or two in the past, but I generally don't drink non-alcoholic beer, and I would say it's almost refreshing.
That's the goal. That's the goal of it.
Sounds like an advertisement.
It's almost refreshing.
That's right.
Yeah, you can use that.
Thank you. It's a great advertisement.
That's right.
Podcast.
Yeah,
That's good.
Well, you talked a little bit about the branding aspect of it. So Bright Barrel, where did Bright Barrel come from? And you got some cool artwork on the can that we're looking at here. How did that come about?
Yeah, so maybe I've just got to go back to, again, the origin. We have had a name change. So when I started this company, I didn't know very much about business. And living in Wilkes County, everything is about the bootleggers and the race cars and the revenue men that chase the bootleggers up into the hills, that kind of thing. And so when I pitched this or came up with this idea, I thought it'd be really cool to have a non-alcoholic beer that celebrated the revenue men and the people who kind of went after the bootleggers. And so that was my original vision. And so I went and gave a pitch in Wilkes at a Wilkes pitch night. The Wilkes EDC held a pitch night. And I pitched a non-alcoholic beer to them that was built around the era of the Prohibition. And I called my company Prohibition Brews. And so it was a very fun idea, but I didn't get very far into it before I ran into a trademark attorney who started telling me, you could very quickly get a cease and desist letter. Let me show you some of the places where people have used Prohibition before. And even though I don't think there's another non-alcoholic Prohibition company, you look at these categories and
close enough to give you aggravation, and who needs that?
Exactly. So I had to walk it back. But I've personally, there are several reasons for Bright Barrel. Bright I chose because it was something that I've gone through a pretty tough season just personally, a divorce, a loss of a job, back-to-back things that happened quickly for me. And so I felt like this business was offered a brightness and a hope for me going through that dark season. That's one. A second element of it is that you drinking a non-alcoholic beer, I've always felt that aspect of brightness. My mind stays sharp. I'm able to go out. My body stays strong. I'm not, when I drink alcohol, it's great to get that nice buzz, but then you kind of slowly, all your senses dull over the course of an evening. And so drinking non-alcoholic beer maintains that edge. And that's something I wanted to capture in the name of our company as well. So barrel is really just gives it a sense of craft, which is something we really want to emphasize as well. We're craft in the art, craft in the production, and that's something we want to really push. So that was the origin of that name.
Now you said you're currently brewing in a 30-barrel system. Are you brewing, or do you have some? Where is it being brewed? How does that work?
Yeah, we are brewing in Nashville, Tennessee. That's now, and part of the reason we're brewing there is because the process you have to follow for a non-alcoholic beer to make it food safe is you've got to run it through we do really a regular fermentation process. We've got a couple modifications in terms of temperature control, in terms of types of yeast we use. But apart from that, you're really brewing a beer, and that's why it tastes pretty close to a beer flavor. But then what you do at the end to stabilize it, make it shelf stable, and make it food safe, because alcohol kills a lot. It kills brain cells, but it also kills any bacteria and microbes that might grow in a product. And there are some non-alcoholic beers out there that do sell unpasteurized product, but we really wanted to be able to offer something that was shelf stable, that could wasn't going to risk exploding. Sometimes there's re-fermentation that happens in non-alcoholic beer, and the way to do that is you pasteurize. And so these guys who we're working with in Nashville, Tennessee, they've got that capability. And so again, we're trying to start with as low of overhead as we possibly can. We do see down the road, we'd love to bring stuff in internally and be able to run all of our own production internally. But at this point in time, to be able to get product on shelves, the space is growing and getting more crowded. Non-alcoholic beer is starting to catch on. There's opportunity. And so we want to be able to be a leader in this space pretty quickly. And so those are all reasons why we're working right now with a contract brewer.
Oh, good.
But we designed the product. So that's where, and the recipe and the process, we worked at App State for over 6 months to develop our first real non-alcoholic beer. And that was, working with multiple yeast strains. It's multiple temperature controls, trying to figure out. It's really there aren't different people do it different ways. And everyone's still kind of figuring it out. So it's very exciting, but it's very helpful to have a PhD chemist who's working with you and a microbiologist who's in the actual lab who are just kind of guiding you and showing you how to do a lot of the basics. So
I would always think, and I'm not an expert in making the beer. I drink the beer, but I don't make the beer. Of just having that consistency once you go to production, of making sure that batch number 12 tastes great, but now you've got it in a 30 barrel system, and is it going to taste like this when it comes out?
yes,
We hope so.
That is our hope.
Hesitancy there. We'll tell you that.
You'll have to test that.
Next week we're gonna all be testing and we're
Okay.
gonna find out. But you guys are catching us at a moment where I don't have 100% answer. This is entrepreneurship, I guess.
That's right. That's a good point.
Yeah. So we'll send you a 6-pack.
Well,
Let's get them a
there you
6-pack so
Well,
they can
people have
evaluate.
figured out how to do it, so I assume you're going to as well. And
Yeah.
it sounds like you're dealing with reputable brewers that know how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
I guess there's a very standard formula that it's not like the secret Coke formula, but you have to maintain that consistency.
You do. And so, we have on a small scale at a half barrel and a 3 barrel size, we've been able to establish some consistency at that size. And that's really what we wanted to do before we took it to a 30. I mean, just the money we're sinking in to run it at that scale is significant. But of course, there are new people doing it. We've got different machinery. We've got all the same products. We gave them a very specific recipe card and process. These temperatures are what you need to control to. So, but we'll find out next week.
Well, you mentioned that it's a significant investment to make the sort of volume of beer that you're starting to make. So talk to us a little bit about funding. Was this all self-funded? Have you gotten other people to get involved with this? Are investors lined up? How does this work?
Yeah, funding has been a challenge. Thus far, we're all been organic with it, so it's just Caleb and I. One of the things that with funding that we've discovered in our conversations with lending institutions is that they really want you to focus on either inventory or an asset. So the entrepreneurs that are listening or would-be entrepreneurs, that's some helpful feedback, is they really lending institutions want you to be very specific when you're asking for funding related to either inventory or an asset. And it has been challenging. Right, Caleb?
Yeah. I mean, across the board, our first experience when, we bootstrapped this together, we brought our money together to make this happen. But we're already starting to look at that next step and what the next order will be and wanting to scale. And so to be able to do that, it's either through investment or through lenders. And what we feel most comfortable with right now and what we need is a certain amount that we think a lender would be more appropriate for. And then maybe once we establish a lot of our kind of key metrics and we're 100% in our business plan, it's working, the channels, we're selling in all the channels, then we will go out to investors and start to pitch scaling this. But what we found quickly with lenders is that somehow in my mind going in, I just thought money is available in the U.S. for businesses. Like, it's easy to come by. But most lenders want 2 years of financial statements. So we've had the hardest time finding people who will even just consider you and won't reject you in your first application.
It's tough to have 2 years of financial statements when you're just getting started.
Exactly.
Like impossible.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can do projections, of course, and I guess we're talking about inventory and assets. They're talking about something that's asset-based.
So that's something they can grab if you don't pay them back.
Exactly.
That's
Right.
common. That's not unusual.
Yeah, but we've the point about assets and inventory. At one point I thought we'll just give them. We just know what our gap is in our projections. We've got this. These are our projections for this year. We've invested this amount. We're going to have this amount of sales. So here's what we need, and then we just go to a bank and say, and that's not how it works. Then that's where the assets and inventory, they're like, well, what are you actually paying for? Right. And then we're like, well, these. And, I feel like every conversation, we've learned a little bit more, but we've definitely faced a lot of rejection to actually get to a point where we still don't have the full answer, but we have a lot more information about how to proceed on this. So.
Well, I think that the challenges that you're running into are not unique. I guess I'm just curious to whether it's easier for a non-alcoholic beer type idea to get funded than an alcoholic type beer, and that different market challenges. Different challenges as well. I mean, the licensing and everything that you have to do with the alcoholic beer, I would think, were more significant. So I don't know, sort of an interesting situation that you find yourselves in. So.
It is. One of the things I found is when you do those drop-down menus and you're trying to select what your business category is and then your subcategory, we never fit any of those. And sometimes you're forced to just, okay, this is the closest we can come to it.
Well, those banks don't like restaurants. We'll just go there, okay? Just avoid that.
That's good to know. Yeah.
Well, so you're brewing now. You said that beer will be available for purchase online in July.
And I should add, we actually are at restaurants. Several restaurants right now are carrying our early product. So we originally went in thinking that we would just let people sample what you guys are trying right now. And what we found was there were a lot of places that actually were very eager to bring a local non-alcoholic beer option into their restaurant. And so we're in 7 restaurants.
We are here in Hickory, Cranford Brothers Barbecue, City Walk Brewery, Standard Oyster, Charlet. Then if you're up in Asheville, the Corner Kitchen restaurant is carrying, and they've actually did a reorder recently on a particular brew. So
good sign.
That's a good sign. Yeah. So and then in Wilkesboro, we're a couple places in Wilkesboro.
Yeah, Cinder Bistro in Wilkesboro is carrying our product.
Oh, cool.
Place as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we have some sales, and we're getting early customer feedback, and that's been critical for this.
And out of curiosity, when you go into a restaurant, are you saying, you don't have a non-alcoholic beer, here's one? Or are you like saying, taste this, tell us what you think? Or is it a combination of those things?
It's a little bit of both. We go in often it's good to just start with some questions. So we get a meeting and we go in and we start just prompting about, do you have something for, if someone's pregnant, especially if you're in a brewery or something like that. Do you have something for, I see you guys have a runners club that meets here on Tuesday nights. What are you guys able to offer the runners that don't want alcohol, that kind of thing? And just kind of prompting the conversation. And then if it is, often like we found, like they don't even have it on their menu. And so they'll say, no one buys non-alcoholic beer. We've had that statement a couple times, and when you drill down a little bit more, you find, well, why would anyone buy it? They're at a bar and they're just looking at the menu and it's water, beer.
It's not on the menu.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things that I think are really helpful.
They're probably not buying caviar there either.
Right. Exactly. So that's what we feel like we're really educators in a lot of ways, both educating public on the benefits of non-alcoholic beer, but also these small business owners on the value of carrying a product like this.
Oh, cool.
We have good partners with the Cranfords.
Yes.
With the businesses here. They're
very
good
much.
people.
Good people.
So as we sort of wind down a little bit, are there, you guys, I know Brian's been sort of an entrepreneur. Caleb, you're on your entrepreneurial journey. What lessons do you want to share with folks in terms of what you've had to come across in your journey?
Yeah. So, well, in addition to saying that, I think a partnership is really, really important. I do think working with a business partner is something that I've just really benefited from. Another thing that I think has been a really important part of this journey is being willing to start something even when it's not perfect and moving forward with it and iterating on it as you go. I've seen that on all different kinds of scales. Partially is with our non-alcoholic beer. Our first couple iterations on it, when I started sampling, it took some tough skin to get some people's real critiques, but I needed to be humble and just ask them, like, please be honest with me. And even with you guys, like it's still like I still want that constructive feedback so we continue to perfect this product. So that is a really important component. I think but what it also, like, it starts to give you street cred. It starts to, you start educating yourself as you're going out and just trying and having conversations and these kinds of things. And I think in the past, what's held me back from, because I've wanted to be an entrepreneur for a long time and I bounced ideas around, but I always kind of hit this point where I just kind of stop, because I'm like, well, that actually, now it requires me to walk out the door and go knock on someone else's door and actually, like, what if they laugh at me, when this happens? So that's really I think that's a struggle, has been a struggle of mine, is fear of what others think. And I'm getting much better now with this product. You also develop a confidence in it, as you get, like, we had the repeat sale at Corner Kitchen, and that was a real affirmation. Until that point, you can get anyone to carry your product once, but it's once you have that resale that you're like, okay, that
people are drinking it, yeah,
just a little bit more. Like, so it's those kinds of things that don't happen unless you step out and take that risk.
Brian, anything you want to add to that?
Great points, Caleb. The narrative among a lot of entrepreneurs really trying to make it is that you have to hustle and hustle and hustle. And you do, not discrediting the hustle nature, but I would caution entrepreneurs, or especially new entrepreneurs, create margin. How important margin or space is. Find time to go on that walk, take a hike, because some of your most creative ideas will come to you when you're away from your business.
I'll take a step back.
That's right. Finding that balance is key.
Yeah, and that's been really important. And sometimes I'm not 100% sure I found the balance yet, but I think if you can get to that headspace where you can just say, okay, I'm taking the day. Like, I'm gonna just, I'm not gonna stress about the business. I know it feels like it's always hanging over my head. Success, I'm not there yet, but I think even in this, because it's a long game. You're not just crashing on something for 6 months and then moving on. One other thing I just wanted to share too was just, I think it's really important to find people that want to grow with your business. So with our business, because we're trying to keep our overhead really low, we're working with, we have people that have been doing this for a long time and have established schedule and kind of are, have a decent customer base. And then we've got people who are new, someone who's new in SEO space, or someone who's new in marketing, that kind of thing, website design, that kind of thing. And when you find those people who are new like you end up getting way greater access to those people, and they're far more interested in your business's success because that gives them greater success as well. And so we've found some places where we've gone where people are just like, have their business system figured out, have their partners, and you're just one more. Those are really hard sometimes to work with. And the people who are eager are the new startups as well. And so if you can bring a few other startups along with you on the journey, things move much more quickly.
That makes sense.
Probably more risk because you're relying on other new startups who might not have as much experience. But I'll take that humility and that hunger over an institutional success.
Well, hopefully they're bringing energy and excitement to the process.
Yeah.
So, well, guys, we really appreciate you joining us
great.
today, and it's I'm digging it. I don't and
I love it. It's the
And
best beer I've had in a long time.
yeah, well, Gary's easy, but we appreciate you guys being here. And if you're up for it, we're going to do our lightning round. If you're up for that, this month our lightning round is sponsored by Globo Gym. You need to lose some weight and get in shape, go to a different gym. But if you already look good, you should go to Globo Gym. Just check it on the internet. I think Caleb could go to Globo Gym. The rest of us, I'm sorry, Brian, maybe not so much. But anyway,
Thank you, Jeff.
you're welcome.
He
Quick
says it about me
questions.
all the time.
Okay.
All right, quick questions, quick answers. Now, and Brian, you have to play too, so you're both playing here. So,
Okay.
all right, favorite vacation spot, Caleb.
Iraq.
Favorite vacation spot, Iraq.
I spent 2 years there. I have some of my best friends live in Iraq. So northern Iraq, up in the mountains. So I'm
Okay.
not talking desert, but that's the first thing that popped into my head.
That's the first time I've
We're
heard
not going
of
to get
Iraq
that one
for-
often. What do you got, Brian?
Oh, wow. I'm going out west to Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Okay,
Heard
that's
good things about that.
all right. Favorite TV show or movie, Caleb? You have a recommendation for us?
Again, I guess the point is the first thing that pops into your head. The Wire is my favorite TV show. I just think
It's a classic. Very
yeah.
good.
That's a good one. My favorite movie, The Shawshank Redemption.
A very good movie. Okay. Getting some good recommendations for the people today. All right. Brian, how would people characterize you, as sweet, salty, or sour?
I'm a little salty.
You're a little salty. Okay. Not sure I would have guessed that.
I wouldn't have
Caleb?
guessed that.
Sweet.
You're sweet? Okay.
wow.
I might have gone that way.
That's a good combo.
Yeah, that's right.
Brian, if you were an Olympic athlete, what sport would you compete in?
Shuffleboard.
Okay, well, good to know. And that's a sport we'll be
That
looking
comes
for
up.
you. Caleb, what about you?
Bobsledding.
Bobsledding.
I love the team aspect of it. I love the cold.
Okay. All right, Mr. Iraq, who loves the cold. All right.
But he's in the mountains in Iraq.
All right. Last question. Caleb, what is your spirit animal?
A crow.
Okay. What about you, Brian?
A crow? Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's a social animal. I like to think I'm intelligent. I try to be. I aspire to be. So I guess that would be my spirit.
Yeah, some of
animal.
us don't know how intelligent the crows are. We'll go with that. Then. All right.
That might show a lack of it. I don't know.
Okay. I'm going lion.
Okay. That's
The king. The king.
You're the king?
Yeah.
All right.
King of the jungle.
King of the jungle. Okay. Well, guys, if people want to find out where they can find out more about Bright Barrel or maybe buy some of the Bright Barrel, where should they be looking?
Yeah, so I would check out our website and follow us. It's www.bright-barrel.com. And I would just say a lot of people spell barrel B-A-R-R-E-L-L. It's actually B-A-R-R-E-L. So
That's
bright-barrel.com.
barrel with one L.
One L. Yeah,
All right.
so it's one L. It's
2 R's, 1 L.
Actually, in the dictionary, it's one L.
You researched that.
Yes,
All right. Well, we really appreciate you guys joining us today. We always like to end up our podcast giving a shout out to small businesses that we might have come across. Fellas, do you have anything you want to share this time?
I'll just say from my side, Wilkesboro, Copper Barrel and Cinder Bistro, they've been, they're great barbecue, great moonshine as a non-alcoholic beer drinker, but they've also been a phenomenal partner for us and great mentorship and giving us space and helping us build this business. So
Super.
Very good.
Gary, you have one?
I do. Of course, I always like to focus on pets, dogs, or food. So today is back to food. Of course, we moved from Conover to Sherrills Ford, right down into the busiest part of or growing part of our county. Neighbors 828 Artesian Kitchen. Anybody heard of it? Yeah. Just opened up. It's literally right across the street from our townhome. It's really good. I highly recommend it. good Italian food. I just had pizza, and they have great desserts to go with it. So thumbs up for Gary.
828 Artesian Kitchen.
Neighbors, 828.
Neighbors 828.
Neighbors.
Neighbors.
828.
Neighbors 828.
Yep.
Got it.
Glad you said that. Yes.
Okay. And that's in Catawba County in beautiful Sherrills Ford.
Yes.
Okay.
Right near the Publix. That's a good landmark.
Right near the Publix. Okay. And I want to give a shout out to a company that I came across called Refibered, and it's REFIBRED. BRED, that's right. And they're a startup that's specializing in advanced material detection of textile waste. They're really trying to work to keep textiles out of our landfill. Gary, you probably did not know this, but 186 billion pounds of textile waste is discarded each year, and over 80% of it ends up either in landfills or being incinerated. And we're trying to figure out ways to reduce that number and make it reused. And the founders of the company, they're coming up with a way to identify and sort textile waste so that it can be recycled, reused, put into other products. So check them out.
Sounds like a good goal. And you're right, I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that either, but I'm learning. But if you go to refibered.com, that's REFIBERD.com, you can learn about the work that they're doing there. So anyway, check them out. So we want to thank Caleb and Brian for joining us today. We want to give a big thanks to our friends at the Mesh Podcast Network. You should check out The Mesh at themesh.tv and see all the cool podcasts they've got going on there. And everybody, try to stay cool out there. Stay hydrated. You might want to grab a non-alcoholic beer. Go find Bright Barrel on the website. Get you some. It's pretty tasty. It feels pretty refreshing. So, I usually am drinking coffee during these things, but I'm giving up the coffee for non-alcoholic beer. So
I trade my 32-ounce Coke for this.
Okay.
So that's a big deal.
Healthier.
There you go. All right. We'll see you guys next month. Take care.
Thank you.